Welcome to Super Showdowns, the ultimate destination for epic battles and legendary showdowns. Join us as we put iconic superheroes, villains, and mythological figures against each other in a thrilling matches of strength, strategy, and skills. The air crackled with unnatural energy as a tear in reality ripped through the heart of a desolate battlefield. The ruins of a once thriving city lay scattered across the landscape. Shattered skyscrapers, overturned vehicles, and the smoldering remnants of civilization stood as silent witnesses to an impending war. Through the rift, an abomination emerged, a hulking, bone-covered beast with glowing red eyes and a presence that radiated death itself. Doomsday had arrived. The monster let out a guttural snarl, his massive frame flexing as he took in his surroundings. He did not care where he was. He did not care what lay before him. The only thing that mattered was destruction. His clawed hands flexed in anticipation, his rage boundless. Somewhere, something still lived, and it needed to be extinguished. As if summoned by fate itself, a tremor ran through the ground. A thunderous boom echoed across the wasteland. Another boom, louder than before. The earth cracked beneath the weight of a force marching toward him. From the horizon, a towering figure emerged, clad in crimson and deep blue armor. His helmet gleamed under the flickering remnants of the setting sun. He moved with a deliberate gait, each step shaking the foundations of the broken city. He was unstoppable, a force beyond mortal comprehension. Cain Marko, the Juggernaut, had come. Juggernaut stopped 100 feet away from the gray monstrosity before him. He cracked his massive knuckles, his smirk hidden beneath his helmet. "So, you're the one wrecking my turf?" he rumbled, his deep voice echoing like rolling thunder. "Guess you didn't get the memo. I don't like competition." Doomsday simply stared, his breathing heavy, his mind calculating. The beast did not respond with words, only with action. In an instant, he launched forward, his monstrous frame covering the distance between them in a single bound. The ground exploded beneath him as he swung a colossal fist, aiming to obliterate the armored titan before him. Juggernaut didn't flinch. He planted his feet, bracing for impact. The moment Doomsday's fist connected with Juggernaut's chest, a shockwave erupted outward. Buildings that had managed to remain standing collapsed instantly. The impact sent debris flying for miles, kicking up a dust storm that swallowed the battlefield whole. But Juggernaut remained standing. He barely budged. His grin widened. "Not bad," he said, rolling his neck. "My turn." With a roar, Juggernaut
Hey you! Don't just watch. Subscribe, please.
Charged, the ground parting beneath his feet as he gained momentum. Doomsday barely had a second to react before the unstoppable force collided with him. The impact sent Doomsday skidding back, carving a trench through concrete and steel. But the monster did not fall. Doomsday roared in defiance, his blood pumping faster. His cells absorbed the force, adapting, growing stronger. He lunged forward again, this time aiming low. His massive hands caught Juggernaut by the waist, lifting him and hurling him through a collapsed skyscraper. The building crumbled around him, engulfing the behemoth in an avalanche of debris. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the rubble exploded outward. Juggernaut stomped out of the wreckage, dusting himself off. His helmet gleamed in the dying light. He rolled his shoulders. "You think that's enough to stop me?" Doomsday snarled. His body was already shifting, his muscles reinforcing, his bones hardening. His body remembered the force, adjusted to it. This battle had just begun. The sky above darkened as the last rays of sunlight disappeared beyond the horizon. The ruined city stood as the arena for what would be a battle of unstoppable might versus unkillable rage. Juggernaut clenched his fists, preparing to charge again. Doomsday crouched, his muscles coiled like a predator ready to strike. Neither of them would back down. Neither of them could back down. Only one would walk away. Juggernaut charged, his massive body tearing through the battlefield like a runaway locomotive. His sheer force shook the ground, sending shockwaves that toppled the remaining ruins around them. Dust and debris rose like a tidal wave in his wake, and in an instant, he was upon Doomsday. The impact was cataclysmic. Doomsday was blasted backward, smashing through an entire city block, his massive body crushing stone and steel beneath him. The shockwave that followed sent fire and wreckage spiraling into the air like an apocalyptic storm. Juggernaut didn't stop. He plowed through the wreckage, relentless, his momentum building with every step. "This ends now. Ugly," he growled. Another charge, another devastating collision. Doomsday was sent flying again, his massive frame skidding for miles, carving a trench into the broken city. But then, he stopped sliding. Doomsday rose, his glowing red eyes narrowed as his body twisted and adapted. The damage that Juggernaut inflicted was already healing. But more than that, Doomsday's body had evolved. His bones thickened, his muscles swelled, and his stance shifted slightly, as if his very being had calculated and countered Juggernaut's force. And then he charged forward, faster than before. Juggernaut lowered his head, bracing for impact, confident that his unstoppable momentum would overpower anything in his path. But Doomsday had learned. Instead of meeting Juggernaut head-on, the monster adjusted his angle at the last moment, shifting his weight and slamming a brutal, clawed fist straight into Juggernaut's torso. For the first time in the battle, Juggernaut staggered. It wasn't just the force of the blow, it was the precision. Doomsday's adapted strength had found a way to exploit a weak point in Juggernaut's movement, striking with just the right timing and angle to offset his momentum. Juggernaut roared in frustration, swinging a massive fist. Doomsday ducked, weaving with inhuman agility, before driving a spiked elbow straight into Juggernaut's ribs. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the battlefield. Juggernaut staggered again. Doomsday kept attacking, his monstrous fists raining relentless, seismic blows onto his opponent. Juggernaut swung back, but his punches were becoming slower. Doomsday had countered his charge, and without momentum, Juggernaut was just another brute. Juggernaut roared and lunged again, aiming to build up enough force to regain his power. But Doomsday was faster now. The monster leapt over him, twisting in midair, and came crashing down with both fists onto Juggernaut's back. The force sent the armored Titan face first into the ground, shattering the earth beneath him. Doomsday didn't let up. He grabbed Juggernaut by the shoulders and lifted him, swinging his entire massive frame overhead before slamming him down again with an impact so devastating that the entire city block collapsed into a crater. Juggernaut groaned, something he almost never did. He tried to rise, but Doomsday was already on top of him, fists hammering down like meteors. The ground cracked, then the armor cracked, and then, for the first time in ages, Juggernaut bled. A deep, monstrous snarl rumbled from Doomsday's throat as he lifted Juggernaut one last time. His claws tightened around his opponent's helmet, and with a sickening twist, he ripped it off, exposing Juggernaut's face. Cain Marko's eyes widened. Without the helmet, he was vulnerable. Doomsday let out a guttural roar as he drove his spiked fist straight into Juggernaut's face. The impact ripped through flesh and bone, sending the once unstoppable force flying hundreds of feet before he crashed into the wreckage of a ruined building. For a moment, all was silent. Then movement. Juggernaut tried to stand, his arms trembling. His healing factor was strong, but the force of Doomsday's relentless adaptation had taken its toll. His body was still recovering, his powers still intact. But Doomsday had learned how to counter him, and he wasn't about to let his prey get back up. Doomsday stomped forward, his eyes glowing with cold, remorseless hatred. He reached down, gripping Juggernaut's throat with a vice-like grip, lifting him off the ground. Juggernaut struggled, swinging a desperate punch. Doomsday caught it, and then with a final monstrous snarl, he hurled Juggernaut into the dimensional rift from which he had come. The tear in reality sucked him in, and in an instant, Juggernaut was gone, lost to the void. The battle was over. Doomsday stood victorious. His breath was slow, controlled. He looked around, as if seeking another challenge, but none came. He had evolved again. He had conquered the unstoppable. And now, he sought his next battle.